Thank you all for attending and welcome to the Bristol Bay Regional Salmon Development Association's first virtual board candidates forum, coming before what may be the record salmon return in Bristol Bay's history. I'm Bbrsda board chair Michael Jackson, who many of you know as MJ. It's great to have 6 permit holders seeking the 3 seats on the Bbrsda board, and I look forward to hearing from them all tonight, as do you. We asked former KDLG reporter Bob King to moderate tonight's forum. Many of you may remember his voice. I know I do. Bob started working at KDLG in 1978 and for 17 years was the voice of Bristol Bay. He's followed the fishery in many other jobs, but is now retired, and we are honored to have him back for tonight. So with that, let me turn it over to Bob King, where tonight, once again, he will return to be the voice of Bristol Bay for our inaugural candidate forum. Take it away, Bob.
Well, thank you, MJ. It's fun to be here, and welcome to all the other viewers to this virtual forum to discuss the Bbrsda board candidates for the upcoming year. There are 3 of 7 seats up for election this year, including 1 Alaska resident, 1 non-Alaska resident, and the other picked from the other remaining candidates. That'll be explained a little bit later. Many of you do know me, or at least my voice. I worked at KDLG from the late 70s to the mid 90s. And thanks to KDLG for broadcasting this forum tonight. I dug out my old KDLG cap to remember it. But over the years, I've never forgotten Bristol Bay. Most of my work since then has been in state and federal politics, including fish issues. I've also been involved in Bristol Bay history projects, including the Diamond NN cannery presentation that's opening at the Alaska State Museum in April. And if you're passing through Juneau later this year, take a look at it at the APK. It's actually pretty good. I've also written numerous articles about Bristol Bay history, the sailboat restriction, the 32-foot limit, the Pacific Packing and Navigation debacle of 1903, and much more. All of which I'd be happy to share with Bbrsda members someday. But today's focus is not on history, it's on the future and who's going to lead the Bbrsda in that direction. I'd like to welcome all the candidates to the 2 seats that are up for election, and the third seat, which will be decided by a ranked choice ballot, as Andy Wink will explain later. They are Tim Cook, Harry Moore, Doug Morgan, Franz Schoenberg, Matt Marinkovic, and Eric Sabo. And again, after the voting, a 3rd seat will be chosen from among the 4 remaining candidates ranked by ranked choice, with the explanation coming after tonight's forum. We want to keep tonight's format simple. We have questions that will be asked of all of the candidates, and we'll alternate at the beginning of each question. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer, and will be urged to close after that. Lonnie has a yellow card that means time is running out. Show him the yellow card, Lonnie. You have 15 seconds remaining, and the red card means to stop, or I may have to step in. Candidates can respond to comments from other candidates, but a reminder, this is a public forum. It's being broadcast on KDLG as well as on Zoom. We'd ideally like to see the candidates focus their attention on their qualifications and key issues facing the fishery, and avoid any personal attacks on individuals or organizations. Also, you should know that the Bbrsda staff will be listening in as fact checkers, and Andy will correct any false information prior to his presentation on the election process and the ranked choice voting issue. With that, let's start with the first general question and allow each candidate to introduce themselves and say why they're interested in the board appointment. And I'll start with Tim Cook.
Yeah, hi, I am Tim Cook, and I want to tell you exactly what I stand for. The Bbrsda is, or at least it should be, all about you, enhancing and protecting your investment in Bristol Bay and the livelihood that we all derive from fishing in the Bay. And I commit to you that we need to look at each project and see if it has financial benefit. And we need to look at the tax rate and see if it's appropriate or if it can be reduced. And with that, I hope that I can answer all of your questions tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Harry Moore.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's so wonderful to be here, and thank you so much for hosting this, Bob. It's good to hear your voice again. It's been many years. I'm a lifelong gill netter out of Bristol Bay, grew up set netting on the North Beach in Naknek, and I've been involved in the fishery, as I said, all my life. My family started there back in, 53, and coming on forward. So what I'd like to do is ensure that this fishery is vibrant, sustainable, and ready for the next generation. As I advance in my years, I know that I have less time in front of me than my own children, and hopefully my grandchildren will have the same opportunities I had that my parents helped provide for me and the generation that came with them. So with that, I'm looking forward to the meeting this evening, and as we stumble through this technology and spending our time together. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Harry. Next, Doug Morgan, introduce yourself and tell why you're interested in the Bbrsda a board appointment.
Thank you both. I appreciate it. Thanks for everybody's time here. I'm Doug Morgan. I'd appreciate your vote for the Bbrsda Alaska Resident Board seat. I was raised fishing in Bristol Bay, bought my first boat, Littlewood Bryant, 19. Run my own operation ever since. Seen many ups and downs in this industry. Skeptical of the formation of the Bbrsda at its onset, but as of late, been pleasantly surprised at the growth and the success it's showing. I worked with the group this winter addressing the foregone harvest that's been increasing in recent years. We worked with the Fish and Game Management. It was a good opportunity to see that the Bbrsda is benefiting in ways well beyond its original description. I feel we are well represented with both management and industry currently. The recent history of other fisheries in our state have proven that a strong, united voice is paramount for survival when outside interests attempt to push the commercial fishermen aside for their own personal gains. We have an opportunity to bring new faces and new ideas to the board this cycle. Let's build on the positive improvements we have seen. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Doug. Next is Franz Schoenberg. Again, please introduce yourself and say why you're interested in serving on the board.
Well, again, thank you everyone for coming out tonight. My name is Franz Schoenberg. I am a fourth generation Bristol Bay fisherman. My great grandfather first came to Bristol Bay in the early 1900s, followed by his son, Robert Magnus Thorstensen, and the tradition has continued. I started fishing Bristol Bay at 13 and have since diversified. Now living with my wife in Petersburg, Alaska, I have Dungeness crabbed out of Westport for 8 seasons, doe for sea cucumbers, long-lined hooks and pots, seine southeast, as well as California squid. In 2018, I bought a starter boat, the Sea Spy. 2 years later, I was able to upgrade to an RSW boat, the Myrna May. I have a vested interest in the future of Bristol Bay with my own children on the horizon, and I believe the Bbrsda has provided a great platform and set a high standard for young fishermen like myself to get directly involved with growing the value of our product. With the right mastermind group of individuals, creativity, and a willingness to see things through, I believe I am the best fit for this group.
Thank you, Franz. And next, Matt Marinkovic, can you talk about, why you're interested in the board and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, great. Well, hello to Dillingham and hello to anybody else who tunes in from the RSDA fleet or Bristol Bay permit holders. Anyway, I've been a fisherman my whole life. Came up to Bristol Bay when I was 16, and I ran a wood boat for 20 years. I come from a fishing family. I've got my roots in Washington in Puget Sound. I've had a Puget Sound gill netter down there as well. I've gone through, I've been involved politically in organizations my whole life in fishing. And through the Puget Sound years, we've been targeted by sports fishermen and gone through lots of regulation stuff to keep ourselves in the game. Pebble Mine is another instance of that. And I'm just in it to win it. And I'll just do my best on the RSDA board.
Great. Thank you, Matt. And finally, Eric Sabo. Could you again introduce yourself and tell us why you're interested in serving on the board?
Great. Yeah, great, Bob. My name's Eric Sabo. It's an honor to be here tonight. First candidate forum put on by the RSDA and amongst these candidates, and particularly you as the moderator. I want your vote. From my perspective, the RSDA has made significant changes in recent years. They put more time, energy, resources towards sustainability and fighting Pebble Mine than ever before. They've contributed significantly to scientific studies and the management and support and the welfare of our fishery. They're making great strides with outreach and getting more people involved, including this forum in electronic voting format. I want to continue these efforts. The RSDA should work with other organizations and achieve common goals. These activities, I believe, are well worth our 1% tax that we're paying. Vote for me. I will listen to your concerns and your ideas. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Eric. Okay, our next question, and we'll begin with Doug Morgan. But if elected, what will your priorities be on the board? And is there a particular issue that motivates you to serve on the board?
Okay, well, number one, it's Pebble Mine, obviously. I mean, that's not even the elephant in the room. We've got them on the ropes. It's time to put them to bed. We've got the manpower to do it, and we got the, we need to work with the Army Corps of Engineers to get the hammer and the nails out and start pounding on that coffin. And aside with that, working with Fish and Game, the time we spent with them this winter, they understand that there's an issue with too much overescape, and we got to stop that. There's too much wasted resource going up the rivers right now. We can do everything we can, and we're working on the port motor boats, bringing in new vessels. So there's not breaks in the data in the data set, so they can make better decisions and make actually trust in the data, because they can't use the extrapolated data that we use when they can't fish on weather days. So that's going to be a huge improvement. But those will be my two main, and anything else is working with the board, whatever we can do to make things better.
Great. Thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Next, Eric Sabo. Again, what are your priorities on the board, and is there a particular issue you're interested in?
Yeah, I have three main priorities that I'm going to focus on, and these are focused on my statement as well, if everybody wants to go to the RSDA website and read those. But sustainability, like Doug, sustainability, fighting Pebble, making sure that we are working with UTBB to impose permanent protections to keep our watershed healthy and lively. That's the number one goal for me. Outreach, getting more people involved. That's been my goal for the last 12 years, whether it's with this organization, others, or just walking around the boats in the fleet. Making sure people are aware of what's going on with RSDA is probably as important. So between those two, hands are full. There's a lot of other important things, but those are the two that I want to focus on.
Thank you, Eric. Next is Harry Moore. Can you talk about your priorities on the board, and is there a particular issue you're interested in?
Well, yeah, thank you so much, Bob. And I would like to echo the two fellows that went before me. You know, Sabo was just talking about outreach, and I think that's very critical, and that's an ongoing aspect of outreach to community, to both the those that are local within the watershed, but also to the fleet as a whole. And Pebble Mine, of course, you know, as that, I think, wasn't it Ted Stevens that said it was the wrong mine, wrong place, you know, and I'd have to echo that for sure. But, you know, Bbrsda has brought us along in our quality, that the overall catch quality has really improved over these years with the continued focus on that. And I think we need to continue to work in that area, especially with these huge runs that are coming, and now the capacity to hold so many pounds on a vessel at one time, you know, being able to put 30,000 pounds on a 32-foot boat. You know, we need to think about the quality that we're producing.
Yeah,
there.
Thank you, Harry.
Yeah.
Running short on time.
Sure, support the science would be my primary one. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Next is Matt Marinkovic. What are your thoughts about priorities and other particular issues you're interested in working on?
Okay, so sustainability is number one, and it's not just the Pebble Mine, it's any open pit mine that could possibly be held in the entire watershed area. There's more than the Pebble lease out there, and they should all be made to go away. There's no possibility to have any of them. Also, marketing is, I think, the most effective thing. A Bristol Bay brand that should be promoted nationwide and make Bristol Bay sockeye salmon a normal everyday household word. Also, I think it's important to support the fleet infrastructure, because we've got some pretty sophisticated vessels these days, and you try to find somebody to work on them. That is a challenge. And also the parts to support all this. And there's so many intricate things going on with our boats. We need some support beyond just the regular, you know, business aspect that can support it. So.
Great. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Next is Franz Schoenberg. Again, priorities and specific issues you're interested in working on.
Well, I think the Bbrsda needs to continue its priority on quality. That has been huge in the time that I've been in Bristol Bay, and the increases that we've seen with marketing, working with Rising Tide Communications. I think that was a great use of Bristol Bay money, and continuing forward to build our market, and then using sustainability, like those other guys said, falls into Pebble Mine, falls into Foregone Harvest, falls into a bunch of different categories, which we need to also market to the world about our salmon and what we have to offer here, because things are about to get a lot more expensive, and we can't get consumers to lose track of Bristol Bay sockeye. So the science projects with Port Moller have been huge. I think that we all have made a lot of money based on making accurate direction choices in river districts with that. So that would be my priority at marketing. Keep marketing.
Great. Thank you, Franz. Appreciate that. And finally, for this question, Tim Cook. Again, thoughts about priorities and other key issues that you're interested in.
Yeah, thank you. You know, the one thing I focus on is return to our members. I mean, we all fish in this bay because we love it, but we also have to make a living at it. I mean, this is the basis of the livelihood of virtually everyone that fishes in the bay. And one of the things that we need to focus on is, how do we benefit our members financially? You know, the Bbrsda at this point, as I understand it, has $3 million in a reserve account. They've got $2 million in a discretionary account, and the 2021 assessment is about to come in. That's another $3 million about. That's about $8 million that the RSDA is sitting on. We need to look at either a long-term endowment so we can reduce taxes, or we need to look at some way to rebate taxes to our members, because 1% is getting to be too much money in the RSDA.
Thank you. Thanks, Tim. I appreciate that. Interesting comments from all. The third question, and we'll start with Franz Schoenberg, is what are your thoughts about the benefits of SETNet participation in the BBRSD? I've seen some discussion going on about that, but do you have particular comments regarding SETNetters?
I think that getting the SETNetters to join the RSDA would be a great benefit for the drift fleet. It takes some of the burden off of our shoulders for the tax rate, because they benefit from the marketing that the brand has made already. It's the same consumer that buys the same fish, so there's no reason why they shouldn't become a part of this association. They might need to be enticed. I think before, when they got the vote, they wanted more representation. And people that I've talked to, I think that's the consensus in the SETNet fleet is, what are we going to get out of it? So we need to keep working with Ocean Strategies to figure out outreach to them, I guess, and figure out what it is they want so we can get them in this association. And that's what I think about that.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Franz. Next, Tim Cook, do you have thoughts about the SETNet question?
I do, Bob. You know, one of the things that I really focus on is who pays the tax, and it's the drift gillnet fishermen. And we have in the past funded a lot of projects that benefited the SETNetters. And I don't think it's fair that the drift netters carry the SETNet fleet. We need to focus on financial benefit for our members, for the people that are paying the tax. All the fishermen pay the tax, they should benefit. And if the SETNetters want to join, they need to join at a full 1%. And if they don't want to join, then they shouldn't enjoy the benefits that we're giving to them.
Thank you, Tim. Next, Doug Morgan. Do you have thoughts about the SETNetter issue?
Well, I have to admit, I started my career in Bristol Bay as a SETNetter, so I've gotten past that with lots of therapy and really worked through my issues there. But yeah, they belong. I mean, they're benefiting. They need to be paying up. They need to be ponying up. I didn't know why they wouldn't want to do it at the beginning, because they're, reduced rate RSW systems don't benefit the SETNet. There's no incentive there. But the current iteration of the BBRSDA is doing really good things. It's moved so far beyond what it had started as, that yeah, they're benefiting greatly now. And if we could put ourselves together, Cook Inlet's a great example to look at. When you don't work together, you end up separate, you end up infighting, you end up with everybody losing. We can avoid that. We can be a united voice of all the harvesters of Bristol Bay under one umbrella. I think we'd all benefit from that greatly. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Eric Sabo. Thoughts about the SETNetter question?
Yeah, I'm lucky to follow Doug on that, because what he said, I completely agree with. It's a significant missing piece of our puzzle. They're part of the group of fishermen that we need to be represented in this organization. So it goes towards outreach, which I want to go full feed in, talking to SETNetters, see and show them what we're doing, why the 1% is something that's worthwhile paying. And it is significantly different from when it started and when they originally voted on it. And they should be able to give an opportunity to vote again. And I hope they'll be there.
Great, thank you, Eric. Next, Matt Marinkovic. Thoughts about the SETNet question?
I would definitely say SETNeters should be part of the program. When I was on the board previously, we outreached them to try to get them to join with, not much response. I do see that RSDA is in a is doing things that would be more attractive to the senators. I think the marketing is the most important thing on that, and also the sustainability. So we're in the game. The question is, are we doing enough to inspire the senators to tax themselves? And I do think it should be a full 1% assessment. And as far as representation, I don't think the size of this board should be increased, but we could definitely make room for their, senators on the board to be represented. So that's it.
Thank you, Matt. And lastly, Harry Moore, thoughts about this subject?
Absolutely. Being born into a setnet family, my sister continues to setnet. My nephew's setnetting there. We've been doing it all our lives. I've been drifting now for 15 years in the Bay. But so yes, setnet participation with BBRSDA, absolutely. To discover what those benefits are, just echoing Sabo there, is that outreach, coming to understand, because every beach has different needs. Not all beaches fish the same. Not all setnetters have the same experience. So it does take a aspect of understanding and learning for us on the board, if, as I say, us, because I will be a member of the board someday, if not this day. There's a need for us to have all user groups involved, because this precious resource is one that we're all invested in, and we're invested in equally. So some at a higher level of financial investment, but we're all invested into the fishery, and we all have a need to participate in the organization that supports it. Thank you.
Thank you, Harry. And we'll move on to our next question, and we'll start with Eric Sabo. Will you be able to speak with one voice with the rest of the board, even if you're outvoted on an issue? This is one of the realities of dealing with a board. Sometimes people have opinions that others don't agree on, but we still be able to work with the full board.
Yeah, absolutely, Bob. And it's a great question. When you have a board, if you can't go in with an opinion, but not willing to listen to everybody and then agree to disagree and come to a vote and walk out and still shake hands and move on to the next issue, you have a dysfunctional board if you can't do that. And I tend to think of myself as a very good listener. I won't come into the board thinking I know everything. I don't. I want to listen to the professional marketers, the guys that are doing the direct marketing, the set netters. I want to listen to those guys before any issue that involves them gets decided on my part. So I think I can work with everybody that's there. The staff is great. They just have impressed me so much the last couple of years. I really want to support and keep the RSDA moving the direction they've been going.
Great. Thanks, Eric. Next, Tim Cook. Do you have thoughts about speaking with a single voice during deliberations?
Bob, if we all have the same opinion, there's no point in having multiple people on a board. And so I'm a big believer in being able to voice your opinion and not being shy. And, one thing I'm not is I've never been accused of being shy. I just don't do subtle very well. So I'm much better at blunt. But, we have a diversity of experience on the board, and I think it is imperative that we're all able to voice our opinion, whether we agree with an issue or disagree. That's just where we are as a people. But on the other hand, you have to be respectful. And, I disagree with a lot of my friends, and we're still friends. That's part of the game of life, so to speak. So yeah, I think that we all need to have our own voice and be able to articulate it.
Thank you, Tim. Next, Franz Schoenberg. Do you have concerns about speaking with a single voice, even if the rest of the boards disagrees?
No, not at all. I don't think that's an issue. as long as you have the right group of individuals who can come together. I talked about in my introduction a little bit of mastermind group. It's the idea that creative individuals can come together and work together to see things through. And, you know, you got to be respectful of other people's opinions. If you don't agree with them, then, you know, try to understand why. And if I'm on the outside and I propose something that nobody agrees with, then that just means I have more work to do and I have to understand where I'm wrong. So yeah, I think that it's not too challenging to come together as a group under one voice. And it's good to have a bunch of different people with different opinions going out there and listening to the fleet to really understand what the important issues are and see if we can come up with creative ideas to make it work.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Franz. Next, Doug Morgan, do you have thoughts about working in a bigger group?
No, well, I do. Yes, it's simple. We're going to disagree at the time when the decision's made. You're going to have all your discussion. You can have it out. You can have knockdown, drag out before the vote sets. When the vote sets, the board has one voice. And it supports that. It supports the outcome of the vote. You had your opportunity. If you hadn't done your homework, you don't have the facts on your side. Well, you lost the vote. Then support the board. That's all. I mean, it's that simple, in my opinion.
Thank you.
That's it. Yep.
And then Harry Moore, could you chime in on the subject of working with the bigger group?
Absolutely. I have served on other boards that have to come to decision-making process, and the need for the cohesive ability for the board to move together with a decision with, you know what a good decision is? It's when not everybody is satisfied. You know, everybody should have a level of dissatisfaction, and that's called compromise. That's how our system of government works. And when we don't compromise, we don't work well. I currently work for an agency in the Department of Corrections. I'm a lieutenant, and there's policies and things that come out that I don't maybe necessarily agree with, but I carry the flag of the department that I work for and represent, regardless if I agree with it or not, because it's the decision and we go forward. So absolutely, I can support the board even if I don't agree with the decisions, because it's the totality of the whole and it's the group that we need to go forward as. Great,
thank you, Harry. And lastly, Matt Marinkovic, can you comment on this subject?
Yeah, so lively debate and thoughtful consideration you need that. And it's like Doug said, and Harry, you know, not everybody's going to agree, but when you come out of it, there's the vote. If anybody bothers to look at the voting record, you got your name on your vote, and then you come out of the organization as a whole, and there it is. So on my past stint with the RSDA, there was some contentious times on that board, and believe me, I'm not signing up for a rerun of dysfunctional board time. So I think that's one of my skills, is that I've learned to navigate that and my own limitations and the things I would push and the limit to which that would go. I have a good gauge on that, and I would make a cooperative board.
Great, I appreciate that, Matt. And that wraps up that for the fourth question. The next, I want to talk about, do you have, and some of you made reference to this, do you have the time and the commitment to work on the Bbrsda board, and if so, do you have time to take on an officer's role in that? And the first question goes to Harry Moore.
Well, I've heard it said, if you want to get something done, look for somebody who's busy. And to say that I'm not busy would be a false statement. So I am a busy person because I'm involved in my community. Wherever I live and work, I'm involved in my community. And this is one more opportunity for to be involved in a community that I care deeply about. So yes, I do have the time and I do have the commitment. I don't start things to not finish them. I do have the commitment. And to sit as an officer's role, absolutely. And again, as I said, if it's not this year, I'm going to run again because it's my time to give back. My parents gave back in the beginning. I'm going to give back because it's my turn to give back to something that has given me so much over these years. So yes, I do have the time and the commitment.
Great. Thank you, Harry. Next, for Doug, do you have the commitment to take on a big challenge like the Bbrsda and serve in an officer's role?
Yes, yes, I do. I wouldn't have applied if I didn't have time and desire to get it done. So I'm here. Just like the rest of us, not a lot of us know what an 8-hour workday is. We're fishermen. If you need to put in time, there's enough hours in the day to get it done. So happy to take on anything that's handed my way. So that's where I sit. Thanks.
Great. Franz, do you have thoughts about the commitment question and serving as an officer?
Yeah, I have plenty of time and I have no problem with serving as an officer. You make time for your priorities, and if I didn't have the time to devote to this association, then I wouldn't have put my name in the hat. So, yeah.
Okay, that's good. Matt Marinkovic, thoughts on this subject?
Yeah, so I'm kind of in the same boat as Harry, involved in the community and the fishery to a great degree. I've started nonprofits. I've been involved with the co-op, a tooth charity that's the one I started, and I'm involved in a school, and I am drawn towards public service. And I mean, I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't have time for this. Also, I do notice there's an outstanding staff on the RSDA, so there is, you know, the purpose of this board is to make the decisions, to direct the staff to execute what is decided. And yeah, I'm in there. And I'm not going to be stuffing envelopes, but I'm in it to win it.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Tim Cook.
Yeah, Bob, you know, this question really, nobody's going to sit here and go, I don't have the time. So, you know, I think we need to ask questions that actually have meaning. But I'll use my time for just a second. I think it's easy to underestimate how much time it takes. I've sat on the Bbrsda board, and Matt has. It's a huge time commitment. I don't think people realize the amount of pages that need to be reviewed, documents, projects. It goes on and on. And the directors on the RSDA really need a salute, because it is a huge time commitment. But I don't think anyone is going to stand up and go, I don't have the time. I mean, that was a kind of a goofball question. So thanks, Bob.
All right. Thanks, Tim. And finally, Eric Sabo, thoughts about this subject?
Yeah, like everybody, I don't think we'd be here. I wouldn't be here if I didn't feel like I wanted to give more time. I spent a lot of time already reading the news, dealing with fishing. Bristol Bay is my only fishing aspect. I have a significant investment up there, whether it's in Dillingham itself or my boats. I want to put all the time and energy into this to make it the best organization it can. And again, continue the efforts that the leaders in the past have done. It's made great strides, this organization, and it's time to pass the baton. It's time for us to do our outreach and pass the baton after we've spent the time that we're devoting now.
Great. Thank you, Eric. Okay, our sixth question, and I'll start this off with Matt. What are your thoughts about the BBRSDA's current budget and financial statements, and how would you determine your budget priorities?
Well, the budget, my budget priority would be sustainability. It goes, well, it doesn't necessarily go with my personal priorities. Sustainability is good, but there's not a huge battle going on with that, although it'd be nice to finish it off properly. Marketing is, I think that would take the bulk of it because that's the most expensive ticket item. And then the fleet infrastructure thing is a new thing. And I mean, the RSDA has the money, and just put it in the right spot and go with it. Quality, I don't think it takes too much money. The advertising the staff is doing is great, and keeping people informed and knowing how to work their equipment and how to do it is great, but there's no big financial investment there. So just put it appropriately in the right spot and spend it wisely, and don't waste it.
Thank you, Matt. Franz, do you have thoughts about the budget issue?
I don't really believe there's an issue. I think that it's money well spent all the time on the Rising Tides communication since 2016. That has been huge for promoting Bristol Bay Sockeye, putting together a really nice website. I think that the executives on board are the administration side of things. They're very aware of spending the money wisely. And I think that that's, they're putting good ideas forth so far and building on quality. The RSW training program, I think that's fantastic for getting the boat owners more aware. And I think that we need to take advantage of the demand we have right now for seafood and just keep hitting marketing, keep growing that distribution line, and doing the Kraken thing, I believe, was a great idea to promote hockey, fish, Bristol Bay Sockeye. I think that we need to continue on those trajectories with our money while we have it.
Thank you, Franz. Tim Cook,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Franz said something that I didn't want to bring up, but I will since he mentioned it. BBRSDA entered into a contract to pay $50,000 a year for, I believe, 5 years to a food vendor at the Kraken Stadium, simply to put the name Bristol Bay Sockeye Salmon on the menu. That's, in my mind, not a good use of our funds. And, that's the kind of spending we need to look at and have metrics to determine whether we're getting a good return on our investment. And there's a lot of projects that BBRSDA invests in that are, how can I say this, marginal at best. And so, yeah, we need to look closely at how we spend our money wisely.
Thank you, Tim. Eric, do you have thoughts about budget priorities and the current budget?
Yeah, the current budget is definitely healthy. We've, had healthy runs, healthy prices. The last, really, it's been on an uptick since 2003. We've been on an uptick, and we've got to remember that we're on the highs now, and the lows can come. We just have to look at Cook Inlet, and we've got to, and I have to hand it to the staff and the accounting department and the leadership, because they are making the reserve accounts. They're looking at endowments to make sure that when we hit those low runs, we're not going to be hurt, that the projects we start are going to finish. So I'm excited about the budget, but I'm really excited about the financial responsibility they've shown, and we want to continue that.
Thank you, Eric. Next is Harry Moore. Do you have thoughts about the budget situation and the current budget?
Yeah, I sure do. first and foremost, this budget needs to be maintained in a sustainable manner, and be that in rainy day accounts or such, that's fine. But in the here and now, I think it's really important that we need to identify what are the needs versus the wants of the fleet. And I think one of a great example is when a bunch of RSW units were purchased at one time, thinking we'll get them out and we'll increase, and it didn't really work out. It kind of fizzled. Another example might be the Kraken. Maybe it is a good thing buying space with supporting the Kraken down there with Bristol Bay salmon, but maybe it isn't. Has it moved the market? That's, I guess, one of the questions I have, because I think the maximizing the value of the Bristol Bay fishery for the benefit of all our members is the #1 charge for Bbrsda. That's the mission statement. So I think we need to focus on that. And when we make these financial decisions, we utilize that as the scope we look through.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Harry. And lastly, Doug Morgan, thoughts about the budget situation?
Well, we got a lot of money right now because we're breaking records with our runs, and our price is phenomenal. So we're looking at the best we're ever going to see, and we should have a surplus right now. If we didn't, we'd really be in trouble. They're spending money where it needs to be spent. My understanding on the Kraken, I hate to beat that dead horse, but is that it's actually an advertisement on the ice, not just on a menu, was my understanding, but I might need to be clarified on that. And 50,000 for an ad on the ice beats the heck out of Tommy Mogan, 100,000 for a fish on his hat that we did under ASME. So, I mean, this is, kind of splitting hairs over what might not be a bad deal. Anything's good, exposure's good, tapping into international markets good. I don't have a problem with the budget. I think we need to look at it close, and we need to make sure that we recognize when we spend the money at the Bbrsda, that's money that came out of all of our pockets and all of our co-fishermen's pockets. We need to recognize that it's serious, make sure we're making good decisions and right decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. That was well done. You guys are really whipping through these questions pretty fast. But let me ask you another one. And we'll start off with Tim. What other skills, connections, resources, and expertise do you have to offer the organization as a board member?
Boy, you're giving me an opportunity to really beat my chest here and tell you how smart and good I am. For full disclosure, I was a professional student. I've got a MBA with an emphasis in marketing. I'm a licensed attorney in the state of Alaska. When Governor Hickel was in office, I was the associate director of fisheries in Washington, D.C. I've been around the block in terms of fisheries. I worked my way through law school, commercial fishing. So I have a vested interest in fishing, and I think I have a lot of breadth. But at the same time, we need to recognize that everyone has a voice, not just me, not just Doug, not just Matt. We all have a voice.
Yep. Harry Moore, do you have other skills, connections, resources, and the like that you can offer the organization?
So if I understand this right, you're trying to understand how well hooked up I am with either in the industry or, yeah, I'm awesome, man. Just listen to me. I'll tell you that. No, skills. I tell you what, one of the skills I have is I work in a collaborative manner. And that's one of the things that I've learned over the years, listening to understand the other. So my skills in communication is beneficial. Might talk a little long, but hey, my connections, I'm an Alaskan resident. I know some of the legislators here. If you want to talk about that, if you want to talk about connections at processors, I can do that. Resources, creative imagination. My goodness, is there another way or a better way of solving a problem? A problem is just an opportunity to find a solution. I mean, it's trying to be positive. That's important. And expertise, I discover those every day. And my wife reminds me what I don't have quite frequently. So I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you, Harry.
Yeah.
Next is Doug. Do you have thoughts about other skills, connections, and the like that you can offer the BBRSDA?
Well, okay, I fished a bunch, then I built houses for a while. Spent 10 years in the Arctic for doing for the offshore oil exploration up there, doing science support for Shell and Conoco. Really very familiar with the scientific world, kept the scientists alive, kept them working, did a bunch of our own surveys as well. So I'm pretty familiar in the, if you want to deal with science, I've got quite a bit of it. Spent the last few years working for a native corporation. We were doing company acquisitions. So we were doing research and figuring out how to make companies work better. They dropped me into the middle of it with a bunch of folks I didn't know and find a way to solve problems and get them running better and get them making money and save as many people as we could. So I can deal with diverse problems. I'm a professional problem solver because the Lord knows I've had enough of them, but that's all I got. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Doug. Franz, thoughts about other opportunities and connections and resources and the like?
Well, first off, after I got my RSW boat, I realized that I needed to get a lot more educated on my RSW system in order to keep it running. So I spent over a month getting my certification for refrigeration, and then I spent another month shadowing DC and Marine Refrigeration Solutions, working hands-on with him and his company in order to better understand these systems. So just right there, I'm trying to tackle one of the biggest issues that Matt talked about, is having a lack of technicians in the future. So that's one aspect that I think will help me grow a lot of connections in the fleet, and hopefully positive connections, because I helped save their system. And I think that we need new young ideas, which is what I have to bring to the table. I don't think that I have every idea in the world, but I am creative and I'm good at communicating and listening to everybody who's willing to have a conversation.
Great. Thank you. Matt, thoughts about other resources and skills that you could offer?
Yeah. Thank you, Franz, for bringing that skill set into the Bay. We need that. So yes, so I'm experienced on boards. I see things from a different angle than a lot of people. So I'm not afraid to speak my opinion. But one skill I think I have is that I genuinely like people and I see their positive aspects of everyone, including the board member who's driving me crazy because of what they're talking about. And, and through that, it helps me get along and through the situation, And I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm coming into this with an anticipation of cooperation and getting to the end goal, as just to get there and keep it functional. So that's what I got.
Thank you, Matt. And lastly, Eric, do you have thoughts about this subject?
Yeah, I think all fishermen are jack of all trades, master of none, so I have no expertise. I built 3 different boats in the last 10 years, and I've got to know suppliers, vendors. I've been fishing in the Bay since 1980. In every one of those capacities, whether crew member or as a captain, I've gotten to know the fleet managers. I have good relationships with all my old fleet managers. I've spent a lot of time in Dillingham. I have a shop there. I know a lot of the people. I love talking to the people in Dillingham. And I think those relationships are important. I support all the locals. And I think that's what I'll bring mostly to the table, is an open mind and a listening mind.
Great, thank you, Eric. We're coming up on an hour here, but I have a few more questions before we wrap things up. Many of you actually mentioned this in the past, but as a board member, where would you like to see investments of BBRSDA made, and in any different direction, and the like? And we'll start with Doug.
I'm sorry. I apologize. I was daydreaming for a second there. All this talk of fishing's got me thinking about the boat, all the projects. Where they, God, I have absolutely drawn a blank right now. I apologize. You're putting me to sleep, Bob. I listened to your voice for so many years out there. You just lulled me to sleep like a little baby there. I'm gonna have to. I'm just gonna take a pass. My brain is just flopped. Sorry, dude.
That's okay. That's okay. We can we can do that. Eric, again, do you have any thoughts, alternative thoughts about where the RSDA should be making its investments?
Future investments. Think big. Think real big, because I think we've made huge strides. And when I say think big, I really think the best investment we can make as an organization is continue to partnership, make the effort and the time to get to know the players, whether it's BBNC with the Kraken or UTBB Fighting Pebble Mine or Trout Unlimited. We need to continue to foster and nurture those relationships. So it's not necessarily financial investment, but it's really a time and energy investment to be partners with the marketers, the direct marketers, the processors. We need to, get them to be, in our boat and working on the same goals.
Mm-hmm. Great, thanks, Eric. Harry, again, thoughts about on this subject?
Sure, on investments to be made. I saw somebody just popped in, what about TV ads and that type of direct marketing? That might be a good idea, and it's all about getting the best bang for our buck. I mean, after all, we're a board made of fishermen. I'm not sure we really are experts on marketing per se. So there's agencies and groups out there that do that professionally, and contacting, networking with them, developing this, and then being able to develop the science around that to discover if we're actually moving the market in the right direction or is our increasing. But science, I think, is really important, where we need to invest in a big way. Supporting the test boats, be it at Port Moller or in river. I mean, those in river, in season test boats are absolutely critical. And we only have one operating in the bay right now. I think that's an immediate area where we could work, because sometimes the science lags behind the reality of what's taking place. And there's another big issue, but I'll wait for another time to fit it in.
Yeah. And let's turn to Matt. Again, do you have any thoughts about future investments?
Yeah, and first I'll say I'd like to hear what Doug has to say, because I do space outs like that all the time, so I can sympathize with that. But anyway, so yeah, so future investments. Yeah, I mentioned it earlier. The on the ground infrastructure in Bristol Bay is, we're lacking in technicians. The parts are missing, and I could see that a kickstart in this from the RSDA would be very beneficial to the fleet in the long run. And I'm talking about helping companies inventory parts and making incentives, sensible incentives to get technicians into the bay and actually putting their knee pads and crawling in the bilges of boats and get it going. And as far as the other things like sustainability or something, that is, you got your reserve, and when it's time, open the valve and spend the money that you need. But in the meantime, let's do some, what I'm talking about, whatever. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep.
And lastly, Tim, do you again have thoughts about future investments for BBS RSDA?
Bob, I do. And really what we need to recognize is we are not selling our fish to Susie Homemaker. We're selling our fish to the processors. And in order to increase the value of our fishery, we need to get better prices from our processors. And the best way to do that, at least I think, is through competition. And the more competition we have, the more we're going to get for our fish. And so we need to invest in, and I can't put a better handle on it, but we need to invest in organizations that will introduce more competition into the Bay. Northline Fisheries was coming in a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, their barge went up on the beach. But those, even though it's a small outfit, the more competition we have, the better price we're going to get.
Thank you, Tim. Interesting, good answers from all.
You forgot to ask me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please go right ahead.
Well, future investing, I think we need to do more research on what the consumers in big hubs like New York, Shanghai, think big internationally. We should figure out what those consumers are most concerned about, the people that have the most money in their pockets, what they want to see. Environmentally sound packaging, for example. If we could work with the processors to figure out a means to create some recycled plastic, that would be something that the consumers would like to see. I think it'd be cool to subsidize shipping down coolant. Somehow the RSDA could put money towards getting coolant to be shipped down instead of people paying $15 for a gallon at the dump, and might be poorly incentivized there. And we can sell that. We can take the commitment that we're willing to put into the environment and our impact, and we can brand the heck out of that.
Great. Thank you, Franz. And I apologize for missing you for the first time. Let me change the question and ask, and this will begin with Eric, but do you have any areas of concern regarding past activities of the organization?
Oh boy. I was a huge critic of the RSDA for several years, and I wasn't happy with not putting any fight into sustainability, focusing all on marketing. A huge question to all fishermen is, how do we market fish when we don't own any fish? So, those are my concerns. And I think that comes with a lot of thought, listening to the experts, and then relaying that to our members to make sure we're fiscally responsible in how we budget those items. But RSDA has made significant changes from the past. It's not the organization it was 10 years ago.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Eric. Tim, do you have are there areas of concerns in the past that you have?
I can't answer that question in a minute. I don't know if I could answer that question in an hour. Having sat on the board, I saw some things that were very concerning to me. I think someone mentioned the RSW units that were purchased. That was a complete fiasco. I walked into that as a new board member, and all I could do was shake my head. When we have board members elect, and I'll drop the name, Abe Williams as president of the board, when he was a paid consultant to Pebble Mine, there is something wrong there. Abe's a great guy, but when you're a paid consultant to Pebble Mine, you shouldn't be the president of the board. So yeah, I could go on for an hour like that, but it's not just the way back board. It continues forward to today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tim. Franz, thoughts about areas of concern in the past?
Well, let me start off by saying hindsight is 2020. It's a learning process. Everything takes time to develop. Good ideas, they gotta be brought up, and bad ideas gotta be burned. And sometimes it's trial and error. It takes a long time to figure out what works and what doesn't, and can't figure it out if you don't try. So the walnut takes time to grow into an oak tree, and I think BBSRDA is a great program now and has done, and we need to continue with the momentum that we have at this point.
Thank you, Franz. Doug, do you have concerns of past activities by the organization?
Yeah, I'll reiterate. I thought the RSDA was a mistake from the get-go. It was, marketing fish you don't own that we already sold. The premise was flawed. It was faulty. And we sat stagnant while Pebble became a huge threat. And we just sat there doing nothing, making excuses why we couldn't do anything about it. When that change went to be, we're actually going to fight for our resource and fight to protect our members. It changed the shape of it considerably. And the branding's been a huge thing. Things are moving well now. And right now they're moving well. We have an opportunity to move forward instead of going backwards here with this election, and it'd be good to follow through on that.
Thank you, Doug. Harry, again, thoughts about areas of concerns in the past?
Well, the past is the past. So we learn from it and we move forward, But, just today, there was a post on Facebook on the Bristol Bay Rumors page. And in that Facebook post by one of the board members, it endorsed 3 of the candidates that are running right now. And it left out the other candidates at all. And I don't find that to be helpful or beneficial for the integrity of the board when you're looking at supporting overtly as a free citizen, but clearly identifying themselves as a member of the board. I think there needs to be a better way of understanding of the impact that these personal decisions make. And this is an example of an immediate event that happened today that I take concern over.
Thank you, Harry. And lastly, Matt, thoughts on this subject?
Yeah. So when I got on the board in 2010, I think the organization was 40 or so years old. I don't know. And they didn't have a consumer facing webpage. When I left, we just initiated our Bristol Bay brand and our nationwide marketing. And so those were the changes that I brought because I got on because I didn't like what I saw. When I was on, I shared time with Abe Williams, and I didn't vote him for president. Not me, okay? And also, I did argue till I was blue in the face, and that RSW program was an ill-conceived idea. Didn't vote for that. And again, lots of arguing about it, but now I'm smarter. And if the vote's not there, I'm not going to waste everybody's time. I'm going to try to get along with the people with the bad ideas, and maybe we can come to some common ground and make a sensible decision that doesn't waste any money.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Let me ask one more question, and then we'll have some closing statements from everyone. But I am curious to know about what fishermen are thinking, and I'll start with Harry. But what fishermen are thinking about climate change when Bristol Bay's runs have been so strong in recent years, but runs have been virtually destroyed elsewhere in Chignik, in the AYK, elsewhere. Does does the Resource Development Association have a role in all these issues, and what can they take? Harry?
Bob, thank you so much for asking that question. I think it's absolutely critical that we support the science to look at how climate change, whatever the cause of it, it's occurring. So I'm not talking about the cause, but to understand how that climate change is impacting our fishery. We have an abundance of salmon now, and they say sockeye like a little warmer weather. Well, is that true for all species? We have a king salmon population that is really struggling throughout our state of Alaska, but specifically bringing it to right here to the Nushagak, we need to develop an understanding and how to respond and lead the science on this, or at least show our efforts at trying to get behind the root causes of what might be the causes and how we can support those species that might be impacted by climate change. We really do need to understand what's happening with the environment around us. We live in it, we work in it, we earn our livings through it.
Thank you, Harry. It's a huge question, but I'm interested in people's thoughts on this as well. Doug, do you have thoughts about climate change and how that's affecting not just Bristol Bay, but other fisheries?
Yes, I mean, I'm of the opinion the Gulf of Alaska is having issues for the water temperature, the blob. Thank goodness north of the peninsula we've survived it. The conditions have actually been beneficial. I don't know what we did right in our lives, but thank goodness we did something, because there's some people starving out there. And we do need to do further studies, ocean acidification studies, to get, if there's something going on that we can help with, we need to do everything within our power. If it's just a matter of monitoring and we're just kicking it down the road and we're going to take our turn here in 10 years, I hope not. But it's nice to see the ice back the last 2 winters. It's nice to see the Bering Sea cooling down. It's, there's some good positive indicators that maybe, hopefully we're coming out of this cycle, but I'm not going to cross my fingers yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Franz, climate change?
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious that the warm blob in the Gulf was detrimental to the runs down there. I fish in Southeast, and it was actually this year we had I think the 13th biggest run in history on return. So that's a good sign. We're starting to see a little bit of movement back into the Gulf, which makes me positive that the ocean is moving in a better direction than it was. But yeah, it affected us extremely positively. We had huge runs and smolt survival rate was good, but I think that we have to revert to the experts on this one and consider the science and do what we can do. But ultimately, I don't know how much is in our power about this one.
Thank you, Franz. Matt, the climate issue?
Yeah, thanks. So, warm blob, Gulf of Alaska, benefits Alaska. That's all benefits Bristol Bay. That's all pretty obvious. And what are you going to do about it? So there's the climate change issue is way overly politicized. It's a on political lines issue. And yeah, I've kind of had it up to here with the climate change and the science behind it. And it's whatever. The realistic thing about climate change is it happens. And there's anomalies. They come, they go, they wax, they wane. I hope that when the Gulf springs back to how it was, that we still have great runs. And as far as what can we do about it, if it rains, take an umbrella. If it's cold, put a coat on. That's it.
Thank you, Matt. Tim, any thoughts about this subject?
I'm not going to address climate change. I think we need to look at something a little more immediate. We operate in a risky business in terms of a lot of different issues. And right now, we have a very big risk coming from the situation in the Ukraine. We don't know how that's going to affect our fishery in terms of the economics. We could go into an economic crisis. We don't know if it's going to drive the price of fuel to $7, $10, $12 a gallon for diesel in Bristol Bay. We don't know if the processors are going to be able to get workers, because there's a huge swath of workers from the Eastern Europe. So we need to be focusing on near-term solutions. Climate change, we can't do anything about. I'm not sure that we can do anything about the Ukraine, but we need to look at near-term issues.
Thank you, Tim. That's interesting take. And lastly, Eric, any thoughts about the climate issues and the like?
Yeah, no, climate change. I've talked to Tim Sands quite a bit about, what his thoughts are, because I always defer to the science. It's all science-based, and we just need to continue to invest in the science and in the management of our systems and trust in what they're doing. Tim speaks very eloquently about the upper lakes and how productive our lakes are and how our sockeye salmon have benefited from that. At the same time, we had 2-3 years ago a real warm spring, and Igushik and Ugashik rivers, low water, the fish didn't want to go up, and we lost thousands of fish because of warm waters and low waters. So, snowpack, all that is important, and it's there's no doubt that climate is changing up in the Arctic, and there isn't snowpack around. The ice pack isn't what it was. I'm concerned, and we just have to keep putting our efforts into science and trust our science-based research.
Yeah, thank you, Eric, and again, thanks all for all the candidates for sitting through this hour and 20-minute discussion with questions. I'd like to turn the final just for a closing statement, and we'll start with Franz, but and you'll have 2 minutes. But would just appreciate your final thoughts and on this.
Well, the Bbrsda has come a long way since the beginning, and I have a lot of respect for the founding board members who had the vision and gumption to make it happen. Quality is the most important factor to growing product demand. And before Bristol Bay brand could be established, there needed to be a higher percentage of chilled fish. From 20% to 96% chilled fish, the results speak for themselves. We have the highest domestic demand in history. After I purchased an RSW boat, I realized firsthand how challenging it was to get help with it. Since figuring out my first startup with the manual, I've since taken it upon myself to get my refrigeration certification. I've also spent over a month personally shadowing DC and his son Robert in order to learn from the best refrigeration has to offer in the industry. This has all been voluntary on my part so that I can be prepared to serve this fleet and its refrigeration needs so that we can continue to deliver high quality fish. I intend to take this spirit of determination and perseverance to the board so that we can take advantage of the momentum we currently hold in the market. This is not the time to take the foot off the gas and hand our short-term gains to individual members through a rebate, nor is this the time to elect a lawyer as a board member who wastes valuable time squabbling over technicalities. That is what we pay a lawyer to do. We as board members need to be coming up with ideas, dialing them into tangible plans of action, and following up with those plans so that we can hold on to our market strength. Now is the time we need to be focused on securing long-term market with consumers who are connected to the Bristol Bay product and will be willing to pay that higher price that we all seek. That takes investment, and let me tell you, the processors will not do this for us. Don't have enough time to go into all the supporting evidence for my opinions during this forum. However, I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody who has questions. Please call or email me 360-536-0934. My email is listed on the website. A vote for me is a vote for the future.
Thank you, Franz. Next, Tim, you have 2 minutes for a closing statement.
Bob, thank you for moderating. And I really want to say thank you to the members that have sat through an hour and 20 minutes or so here. We've droned on about a lot of different things, but it really is your money in Bristol Bay. And this organization, in my opinion, is at a crossroads. We need to be sure that we elect people to the board that have the best interest of our members, not the best interest of our processors, not the best interest of third parties. And our members, you've got to look at it very closely. Our members are the drift fleet. It's not the set netters. It's not anyone else. And we need to look to the financial benefit, the financial future of our members. We can talk a lot about great projects like recycling nets and climate change and all this. The bottom line is we need to look at everything through a metric of, is this benefiting our members? Is it worth 1% of our catch? That's the bottom line. This isn't a fraternal organization. It's It's an industry organization based on the increasing the value of the fishery to our membership. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Next, Doug, do you have a closing statement?
I do. Thank you. Thank all the people listening for your time. I know it's just taken a stretch. You've sat through it. And it's good to see people engage in the election process. Thank Bob and the other candidates for your time. I appreciate your vote when the ballots arrive. I will do my best to work with the board and make sure all of Bristol Bay is well represented. I will always be open to suggestions and comments from the fleet. Our future success will require input beyond the 7 elected board members. We all pay into this. We should all have a voice. I'm not going to promise you your money back, which in a time of record inflation in a future that is certainly uncertain is not a great idea. But I will work to ensure the money spent by the Bbrsda is put towards the most beneficial projects or not spent at all. Having a financial surplus right now puts us in a great position. If we make some good investments now, we can lower our tax rate down the road. If you have any questions or concern, reach out to me. I'll do my best to answer them. 907-350-7344. Or my contact information is available on the Bbrsda website on the candidate page. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Eric, you have a closing statement?
Yes, thank you, Bob. Again, just like the others echoed, thank you for everybody that's participated in this. The other 5 candidates, I'm honored to be amongst you guys to compete for these seats. The staff has put this together, and obviously the board, current board, and the listeners. Short and sweet. I give a lot of kudos to a lot of other organizations and what they're doing. I am the administrator of the Bristol Bay Permit Holders website on Facebook. It's a forum that I created to do this, to have discourse, to throw around ideas, to talk amongst permit holders. The RSDA serves an important aspect in outreach. But one of the organizations I want to give some kudos to is the Commercial Fishermen of Bristol Bay. They recently posted and they said they're going to work hard to protect and promote Bristol Bay's incredible watershed industries and salmon resources. And I've thought about that statement, and that's kind of if I had a motto to take to you as a voter, is I'm going to protect and promote the RSDA and our fishery. That's my mission, and I ask for your vote. Have a good night.
Thank you, Eric. Matt?
Okay, thanks, Bob. Yeah, so basically I'll just touch on what I mentioned before. With the Pebble Mine, of course, no Pebble Mine, but let's please go beyond that. We've got, if we could finish this thing off in the next couple years, let's finish it off with no mining allowed in the Bristol Bay watershed. I'm not talking about little mom and pop place here operations. I'm talking about large scale open pit mines. There's a lot of leases, and I'd like to see all of those banned and not just one, because what's keeping them from going to the next one? This is the time to finish those off, and we should go all the way with it. So that's one thing I've got going with me. And then the other is on the I have a concern about sports fishing interests that threaten the commercial fishery, because there's on the east side fisheries in Bristol Bay, you're not allowed to set a king net. It's illegal. 7-inch net, can't do it because it went away in the last Board of Fish. And Doug will know, he's got the Cook Inlet eyeballs going on what a sports fishing lobby can do. And they will do that to our fisheries. So we got to watch that. And I know that's not an RSGA thing, but it is, we can get there. Okay. So anyway, there's that. And I don't know, just I'm in it to win it. And I've got concerns that are legitimate and direct to every fisherman. And I'm looking to put this thing together in a good way and have a productive board that is not a waste of my time or anybody else's, and not a waste of anybody, my money or anybody else's, because we're all paying into this thing. Thank you.
And thank you, Matt. And lastly, a closing statement from Harry Moore.
Well, Bob, thank you so much for your time here and the opportunity from BBRSDA for creating this format. I think it worked really well. I've seen some positive comments come in regarding that. So well done to all those that were able to participate. I suppose in my closing statement is this. What is the mission statement? Maximizing the value of the Bristol Bay fishery for the benefit of our members. You know, in the mid 80s, I think the average price this year in the Bay was around $1.60 a pound. In the mid 80s, it was about the same. If you put into what that $1.60 or $1.50 was back in the mid 80s compared to now, it's quite a bit different. I'm not quite sure we're there yet. So it's obvious we got work to do to get a fair price for the product, this extremely unique product that we each produce. But I think that it's important as a board member to discover what it is that the board members, what the members of the association want. I think in the last vote cycle, and I hope somebody can correct me, but the participation in that voting was very low. Was it 380 for the last election cycle, something like this? I'd like to hear that number, what it was. And if we're having that low of a number, that means we're not connecting with the people we're supposed to be representing. And I really think that that's an area where we need to work at, and to build up that participation, the common knowledge and the common experience. That way we can lead ourselves into the future with those ideas that we hear on the dock and the policies that we decide to implement as a BBRSDA association. So with that, Bob, once again, thank you so much. So good to hear from you. And by golly, I guess I'll catch you next tide.
Yeah, that's right. And with that, thanks to everyone here. And that's we end this forum of the candidates for the board of the BBRSDA. Thanks to the candidates we've heard tonight, as well as Andy Wink, MJ, Fritz Johnson, Becky McCain, Lilani. Thanks also to KDLG for broadcasting this event throughout the Bristol Bay region. We hope this has been helpful in making your choices in the upcoming board election. Stay tuned. Andy's going to have for a discussion of the preferred choice election for seat G. That'll be from the among the candidates we've heard from tonight. We're all looking forward to this election and the anticipated record sockeye season ahead. Until then, I wish you all good luck and good fishing.
Thank you very much, Bob. Great job on the forum. I think this worked really well. Before I talk about the election and the ranked choice voting, I'll just clear up a few corrections. On our financial position, the statement from Mr. Cook was that we would have $8 million after this year's coming assessment. We project to have roughly $6 million on hand after we get our annual assessment this July. And then that money has to cover our $2.5 million baseline reserve, which leaves us about $3.4 million left in unrestricted cash. And so that $3.4 million has to last us until July 2023 or be added to savings. Second correction, or maybe thing to clear up, is on the statement about the $250,000 price tag on the Kraken project. We contracted as a minority partner on that for $50,000 a year for 3 years with 2 more optional years. And so what that investment paid for, along with funding from our partner on it, was it paid to build and operate one of 12 food marketplaces at the Climate Pledge Arena. And so along with that comes other opportunities to advertise around the arena, such as advertisements on or by the ice and that sort of thing. Our food marketplace is called the Bristol Bay Wild Market. You can find more about that online. Yeah, definitely a lot of people that are going to be coming in and out of that arena over the next, this year and in years to come. So with that, I'm going to move on to.
Can we have a clarification?
Sure.
Yeah, on the climate change arena. So the 50,000, you said that it is on ice or it's not on ice, and if it's not on ice, what would it cost to put it on ice?
I don't watch Kraken games religiously. I've seen some on TV, but they do these things where you can project an advertisement on the ice, but when you're there, you tend not to see them. I don't think you see them. But they do have advertisements around the ice that kind of shift during the game. There's also advertisements around, the arena in different places. But most of what that project was geared to do was to give us a lot more exposure to the people visiting the arena, raise the profile of Bristol Bay, and really, I guess, identify ourselves as a key leader in sustainability. I mean, it is the Climate Pledge Arena, which Amazon paid a lot of money to name it that. So I don't know if anyone has any other questions about that. I'd be, probably best to answer them offline and save folks' time. But yeah, I'm going to share up my screen here quick because I have a few visuals. Bear with me. Okay, so talking about the election, I'm going to talk briefly about the setup and the changes, and then talk about the ranked choice. I can get my slides to advance here. So as you guys know, we have seats up for election. Seat A is Alaska resident, seat D is non-Alaska resident, seat G is the open residency seat. We're going to be sending out electronic ballots this year to our members and paper ballots to those who requested them. The open residency seat will include all candidates, and the winner will be chosen via ranked choice. Why did we change this from how we used to do it, which was sending out paper ballots to everybody? A, it reduces cost. It costs a lot to print and send that many ballots. Number two, for convenience of voters, it's a lot easier to do these things on our phone or computer these days. And also kind of along with that was there could be ballot delivery challenges. People change addresses sometimes. People aren't always at the same address for that week when they go out and that sort of thing. So this allows us to get ballots to people where they are. And in the past, we had a hard time resolving those challenges when they popped up. And finally, doing it the way that we're doing it now allows our membership to elect the most popular and preferred candidates. It prevents maybe having two strong candidates going after the same seat. So I think it's a more democratic system with the structure that we have, where there's two residency seats and an open residency seat. So voting with an electronic ballot. It's pretty simple. You're going to enter your votes. You're going to click the submit button, and then you're going to save your confirmation code. You'll get a confirmation code. You can save it. You don't have to. It's up to you. And if you have multiple permits, you'll repeat the process. So it's going to look something like this. This is a dummy ballot, essentially. So you'll just make a choice for seat A. You'll make a choice for seat D. You'll rank your candidates, and 1 is the most preferred candidate, 2 your second most preferred, 3 third, and so on. You don't have to rank them all, but you do have to rank at least 1. And the more you rank, the more chances are that that person's preference will get counted. So after you've made your choices, just hit continue. You'll be brought to a screen that will show your choices. You'll have a chance to edit them if you misclicked or whatever. And then you just submit. And you'll get a confirmation code. So that's the electronic ballot. In terms of what's going to be going out soon, you'll be getting a text message, which will have a link in it that will be for your specific ballot. So you'll click on that and fill it out. And these will be going out about noon on Monday, March 21st. If you provided an email on that voter information card, you will also get an email notice. If you get an email on a text, you can't vote twice. It's just, brings you the same link and it closes once you voted. But, same thing, click on the link and you'll be able to make your vote. Now, there might be people out there who might not have great internet access via their phone. They might have to go somewhere, to some other office where there's better internet. We've heard that and we understand that. So what you can do in that case is you can enter that link at the bottom and enter your access key, which is provided there, in this test as 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, D, 5, 6, 7, 8, E, F, G. So, we've tried to make this very convenient, but also very flexible. And so if you have limited internet, you can still do it that way. On the paper ballots, this format is really just the same as it's been in prior years. You'll fill out your ballots, you'll insert and seal the completed ballot in envelope 1. You're going to insert and seal that envelope in envelope number 2 and complete the identification information on the back of envelope 2. And then you're going to insert envelope 2 in the return envelope and send it to our election contractor, which this year is Cash and Gilmore in Lynmouth. And then of course, got to get it in the mail. So you're going to mail that envelope back to them. And those ballots must be received by April 4th to be counted. We have to draw the deadline and cut off at some point. On April 5th, they're going to start counting ballots. So that is paper ballots. In terms of how votes are counted and how we announce the results, what will happen is Cash and Gilmore and Lynmouth will download the vote file from Election Buddy with all the electronic votes. They will tabulate the paper votes and add those votes to the electronic vote file. Then CGL will tally the winners for each seat. Then they will produce an elections results report. They'll give that to Bbrsda. Bbrsda will announce the winners to our members via our website, social media, and to our email list. And the winning candidates will begin their new board term at the next board meeting, which hasn't been scheduled yet, but will probably take place before our annual in-region meeting in June. So probably sometime between April and June. Okay, so we've had some questions about how are ranked choice votes counted. And what will happen is we will have a winner for seat A and D. And basically if somebody gets over 50% of the votes, first preference votes for the seat G in the ranked choice, if they didn't win one of the other seats, then they win. Very easy. That probably won't happen as we have a large slate of candidates here. And so what will happen is the winners of the residency seats for A and D are eliminated, and the preference order on the ballots is retabulated, and then the first preference votes for the remaining candidates are counted. If no one is above that 50% threshold, then we go to the candidate with the fewest first preference votes, and they are eliminated. The preference order on ballots is retabulated, and first preference votes for remaining candidates are counted. So if your first preference vote was for one of those candidates that was eliminated, your first preference vote would then move to the next person on your ballot. And so this process continues until one candidate has over 50% of the first preference votes. In terms of election security and integrity, we're using Election Buddy. It's kind of got a cute name, but it's a very highly secure voting platform that's used in 194 countries. It's used by many nonprofits, associations like ours, universities, and other government agencies. The voter access keys that you'll receive are only provided to voters. We don't know them. Don't, unless you want someone else to vote for you, don't forward them around. That is your unique key. Your ballot selections are anonymous, but with your confirmation codes, you can verify that your vote was counted. Bbrsda contracted with Cash and Gilmore and Lynmouth for third-party election verification services. We had to figure out a way to blend the paper ballots and the electronic ballots and handle this election in the way that we wanted it to work. So we've happy to have their assistance on it. And we fully believe that this is a very secure election process. So we're very excited about the changes and, frankly, interested to see if we can improve on the, I think it was 372 votes that we had last time around. Some questions that I tried to anticipate, can I change my vote after submitting an electronic ballot? No, it's very akin to dropping your ballot in the box when you go to the polling station. Once it's in, it's in. Things about if I lost my paper ballot or didn't see it come in the mail, can I request another one? I would say no, it's likely that there would not be enough time. We send out paper ballots at your request to the address on the permit or a different address that you specified. I haven't had anybody approach us about this situation, and with the deadline coming up, I would say we could always try, but with mail delays, timing might be difficult there. But we have heard that people are getting their paper ballots and everything seems to be working very smoothly there. How will ranked choice votes be retabulated? That probably sounds like a difficult thing to do, given the number of votes that we might have. Well, basically this can be done very easily in a spreadsheet. So we have a spreadsheet that will automatically tabulate these things. The election contractor can check them, and we can see that it's happening as it should, without having as much potential error if this was being done fully by hand. A few more questions here, almost done. How do we know that votes were counted accurately? An anonymous vote file will be available upon request, and members may see what votes were cast and how they were counted. When will the election ballots go out? I think I mentioned that, but I'll just restate here. Election ballots will be sent out around noon Alaska time on this coming Monday, March 21st. And electronic ballots must be submitted by the end of April 4th. And paper ballots must also be received by the election contractor, CGL, by April 4th. So if you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to me via phone, 907-677-2371, or you can email info@bbrsda.com. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And thank you, everyone. Great forum. Thanks for the participation, and have a good weekend.
Have a good night, Andy. Thank you. Appreciate it, everyone.
Thank you.
And thanks again, everybody. They're all good choices, all these guys are.
Yeah, thanks a lot, everybody.